Yes, we can.
Yes, brother, we can.
Thank you very much, everybody. Of course, it's been a lot of, information overload, at least for a simple-minded guy like me. I'm still trying to get my bearings right, trying to process, how much to digest. Don't want to get over-digest when you're fasting. So, guys, this is an extremely important session. This to me is going to be the power punch of the whole forum. Remember, the idea behind this session is to add this crucial element of the technology pelunthra and squeeze the whole notion from the very welcome address to the keynote addresses to the panel discussions prior to our sessions to the special addresses, squeeze all the information and put it in a very sweet ball of model and policy orientation of mainly post-COVID-19 dynamics that the world is going to face financially and hence Islamic financially. Now, before I ask you guys your expert opinion, your views on this extremely important session, I have this one slide to share. I just want to give an idea to audience that what technology does to people. And future is much faster than what you expect it to be. So I just want to show you this slide of mine. I don't know if you can see it or not. Look at what's happening if you are seeing it. When we were in 1998, most of us were still kids, when we were in 1998, we used to listen to the fact that don't get in a car with a stranger. This was the 1998 philosophy. Fast forward to 2008. Do not meet people from internet alone. Fast forward to another 10 years. Now the same old philosophies, the same old dogmas, the same old taboos. Now, 2018, get an Uber, order yourself a stranger from the internet and go into a car alone with him. Do you just notice what has happened? How the world and the mindset and the dynamics of the world change, and it is a speed of its own. This is the power technology has. It not only changes mind, it changes its thought, it changes its dynamic. The only difference between science, which is physics, chemistry, biology, and medicine, versus science of technology is that the speed of change is so fast, it is almost per day change, if not a per week change. For example, look at our mobile phones. The moment we buy the latest mobile phone, 2 months down the road, it is not the latest anymore. Somebody else has an even latest gadget. This is what I'm trying to tell you is that the notion of technology is going to be the notion that the world is going to live in. Already, we are all living not only a new normal of COVID-19 and its effects, we are living in a new normal of online world. Whatever remains of the global routine post-COVID and during COVID-19 of the world, the remnant of the routine is all online. Look at us. We are all online. See, so extremely important session. I want to make sure that whatever we have discussed since morning till now, the whole idea, the notion, the theme behind the whole event organization of it is to then squeeze it and give it a technology orientation, then extremely important for not only during and post COVID-19, but for the next 10 years as well. So when you're in 2020, you're talking about 2030 already. So what I want to do is, I want to make sure that, ideas like big tech versus fintech, ideas like, FANGs, the FANGs means the Facebooks, the Amazons, the Googles, all of these big techs, plus whatever we've been expecting, experiencing, and already discussing since morning, how we can give the audience some technological modulations and policy prescription for the future in consideration of what the world needs right now. And I want to start by asking Asim, a cool guy, relatively young, if not young, whatever is your age, but even if it's 35, it's the new 25 is what I'm guessing.
So, it's 27 by the way.
So it's a new 17. So you're 17 in 2020. So what we are seeing is, Asim, you've been into financial technology for some time now. We've seen your work. We've been following your work. You're a gadget guy. You're a technology freak, is what I'm saying. what do you think? What propositions or what policy orientation would you have, knowing and listening to the discussion, particularly the social finance discussion and the risk sharing discussion that we've been doing? Because I'm a firm believer that what fintech is doing with this common model of financial inclusion is nothing but doing 101 Islamic finance, classic risk sharing going on, actually stealing the mandate of Islamic finance, the shine of Islamic finance, what it was supposed to do 40 years ago. Even still, there's a third time lucky opportunity. So what do you think? What is going to be the key cornerstone or key mantra for a technology adoption version of Islamic finance to adopt risk sharing even through social finance? Blockchain, AI, Internet of Things, you name it, and you suggest to us.
Let's start with the blockchain. First of all, I need to give a brief background, because when it comes to the blockchain and the future technologies we are talking about, like blockchain, cloud, big data, data science, so we have less awareness. According to me, as a Muslim, as someone living in Islamic countries like Mauritius, UAE, and Pakistan, I have worked over there. So what I have noticed, we are not promoting what we actually doing with our religion or with our community. Let me give you some backgrounds. Like more and more banks in the Islamic world, a community of more than 2 billion people worldwide, are adopting blockchain technology, but we are not aware. We as a common people, like a general people, the college going guy, the university grade, or professionals working in banking finance industry is still unaware about, like, lots of Islamic worlds are already doing blockchain and the AI thing. Let's go back 4 years back. Emirates and Medi researching capabilities of the blockchain, like they are doing transactional reduction in the cost. In 2007, the UAE Emirates Islamic became the first Islamic bank to use the blockchain technology for fraud prevention. Then later a year in April, an Islamic scholar declared Bitcoin permissible under Sharia law after a study conducted by Blossom Finance, and so on. There are lots of examples in the blockchain and the artificial intelligence use cases, which can be either redevelop, remap, or purely restart, or you can say just launch on top of emerging technologies. So according to me, there are some benefits, booms, and win-win situation with the blockchain, AI, and Islamic banking and finance. Blockchain offers an ideal solution for Islamic bankers and financial experts. It reduces cost reductions, it eases your process, it provides security, it provides you immutability. Like if you and me are conducting a transaction, whether be it conventional banking or Islamic banking, be it riba full or riba free, I am not talking about that, but let's consider we need some intermediaries. When we talk about the intermediaries, we have some transactional costs associated with it, and there is some administrative issues as well. Here comes the idea of smart contract. Smart contract is like whatever you are doing on the paperwork, like the receipts, the contracts, the agreements, you are going to embed it on the immutable code, like a code which nobody can change it. Or as a blockchain evangelist, I must urge you, like when it comes to the risks and compliance management, whether it is a conventional banking, conventional finance, or Islamic banking and Islamic finance, blockchain is providing trust agent role. Like if you don't trust people, if you don't trust companies, if you don't trust banks and institutions, blockchain can become an intermediary, or blockchain become a party which actually giving both of and as a trust material. So if I take more, so you can understand, like Saudi Arabia's Islamic Development Bank start working with the crypto firms. The bank is working with the settlement of one of the crypto startup in the European region, and they are also in the KSA region, and they are trying their best to
I'm guessing
eliminate a lot of redundancies which actually Sharia financial product has. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. You're back now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Hassan, you go ahead, please.
Okay,
Carry on.
Okay. So it's not.
Yeah, so I think there is a.
Ask me about respect to emerging technologies. So when we talk about Islamic banking and finance, so we have some strict standard rules for financial transactions, be it zakat, be it wealth but we have some strict standards, and it actually enhance in working with creating their ability to comply with Sharia based other in the finance world refuse to give. For example, bonds, they are conducting research. When we talk, they are not actually doing it. In GCC, a lot of work is going on, but that is not publicly available. There's the bank that are able to debt only when it is backed by goods and services, which if living in a digital age, a banking sector, a financial sector, or any foundation which actually providing our social financing services or business finances, financial services. So there is a issue. So over here, the blockchain enhance the transparency, auditing. Like if I have Islamic Sharia compliance stocks, but
I think there is a
on the blockchain, so it create more trust. Why? Because blockchain is an open technology. Start from my wallet and enters into the stock market and by institute. So there is about honesty and the transparency, and this technology is actually going to support really well. Dubai's OneGram and the Malaysian Hello World have incorporated by making it centralized their model like gold. Both funds have been approved by the Islamic scholars as Sharia compliant financial product. So there are lots of things available. Let's say 3Rs have been introduced by Islamic Development Bank. They have issued some stimulus package or relief fund of $1 trillion or some $1 billion. They are talking about some $1 trillion economy and injected some $1 billion amount, and they have introduced 3Rs. So what 3Rs is talking about? First 3R is talking about the physical supply chain, like they are give goods, protection in COVID era, medical supplies, food. So let's talk about here like the role of the blockchain, the artificial intelligence, and other things. The role of the blockchain over here, like if you're talking about if you are talking about someone is a charity organization and supporting some social causes or humanitarian causes, and they are pouring their money into some goods or giving it to someone, some people or some organization to work on the grounds or to buy or use the money. So over here, blockchain is going to support the transparency, openness, like the fund is going to the end user, be it in the cash way, be it in the cryptocurrency way, or be it in a goods way, like you are giving them some goods, food, shelter, anything else.
I believe, Brother Yasin, yes, and I think you're having a lot of distortion with your connection at your end. What I want to do is I want to pause you for a moment while you fix the connection at your end.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
So I want to bring in Khatib. Khatib, I mean, you've been providing a lot of solutions to so many parts of the financial industry, labeling yourself as Path Solutions. I want to ask you, I mean, whatever I could understand from Aston himself, and he's been, very optimistic about what blockchains and AIs and other fintech modes can do for the financial world, and what we've been discussing for the risk-sharing ventures of Islamic finance, although we couldn't hear him properly on a number of occasions. I want to ask you, what do you think? Is fintech to the financial system / Islamic financial system boon or a bane? versus is a new phenomenon in the market called big tech. Now, is big tech boon or a bane for fintech? Is fintech boon or a bane for the financial sector, including Islamic? Or is big tech boon or a bane for both fintech and the financial sector? Your take, Khatib.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like first to thank Ayufi and the co-organizers for giving me the opportunity in this event. Fintech subject is a very large subject. Let me put some background to answer the big techs, and definitely the big tech is going to be a threat to the fintechs and to the banking sector, but also introduces an amazing opportunity for them if they know how to work it together. As the times we are living in, we had a very tough 2019 for the Islamic Fintech. As you know, the Islamic Fintech came to existence much later than the conventional fintechs. I mean, if you look at the oldest Islamic fintechs, they are actually about 3 or 4 years old. And most of them still survive on the funding of to actually survive, and they don't have profits or and very little revenue. So 2019 came, and it was a tough year actually for the fintechs. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because the threats, a part of the big techs got the cash, the big techs got the age, the big techs got the big numbers and the big balance sheet, which means they can survive and weather the storm that we are living in. Islamic finance fintechs, on the other hand, are really gonna have really hard time weathering this storm. And they have options. They have I can see the tiny fintechs actually surviving because they can mutate, and they don't have much costs, and they can actually work. The large fintechs, which are in Islamic finance, very, very few, they may actually be able to weather the storm. But the big middle in the Islamic finance will have trouble surviving. So they have options. They have either an option of an M&A with a bank and being purchased by a bank, or they have an option to actually merge with another fintech or exit the market. So we're going to see a lot of turbulence in the market in the next 12 months because of the perfect storm that is happening today. The big techs, on the other hand, they are enjoying, if you look at the stock market, if you look at the performance, even the first quarter performance, including March numbers, you will find that the fintechs did extremely well. Actually, if you look at the technology, the big techs are doing extremely well. If you look at the big techs sector in the stock market, they actually have not lost much since the beginning of COVID-19, and actually in the beginning, when they lost some in the first month, they recovered most of it in April and in early May. So that means they have the ability to go into international markets. Today, mostly they are testing those financial technologies in the US market. If you look at, we heard about 2 years ago, Apple saying they introduce a credit card with MasterCard. We saw Amazon moving, and all the indications that they will do to the financial sector what they did to the retail sector by providing a platform. This platform will allow them to offer to the banks and to the fintechs actually a nice platform to offer their services. If you are a user of Amazon, you will notice that they sell, a lot of other companies actually sell, small and medium businesses and large businesses, they sell through the Amazon platform. And I see that happening in the financial technology. So they will try to play the role of the front end for the ecosystem for the financial ecosystem and offer these small and medium fintechs or even the financial institutions and the banks a platform to provide their services. Of course, Google is moving also aggressively in this area, and the reason Google is so interesting is because of their analytics, because of their artificial intelligence, because of all these tools that they already have and use, and of course the access to, I don't believe there's anybody who goes his day without using Google at least once. So they have tremendous amount of big data, and they have this chatbots, they have the technology of AI and analytics. All this can be actually offered to the financial institutions, to the fintechs, and they will tell them, you can partner with us. So I see for the big techs, it makes sense for them to actually partner with the financial institutions and partner with the fintechs than actually go head to head and actually be a competitor. So I believe that you will see that in the next couple of years, where they will become really huge fintechs offering the front end and the analytics and the tools and the technology to all those financial institutions.
Well, that's a very keen observation, I must say. That was very sharp observation and very far-sighted, in so many ways. I'm looking at some data over here. I want to bring in PayPal. PayPal eventually got you. It's very hard to get these PayPals in all these conferences. So, we're lucky to have PayPal. Don't want to bombard PayPal from so many questions, but hey there, PayPal, Tahir, Emra. Want to bring you in and want to ask you some. I have some data. I'm just curiously looking at it now. I'm just looking at an article right now in front of me, and it says that how technology has boomed in just the last 10 years. In 2006, you can see that among the top 5 companies that used to have a lot of market or the highest market cap in the US or in the global world was ExxonMobil, Citigroup, and financial sector and General Electrics and stuff like that. But move on in 2017, the same domain has been captured by technology companies like Apple. You have Microsoft, you have Facebook, you have Amazon, and all this and that. Now, the other data that I'm looking at is, and as Khatib was mentioning, that these big tech. By the way, for the simplicity of audience, the difference between big tech and fintech is, now fintech is a classic 101 technology solutions which can go high end as well, and anybody can do that if you have that skill, be it a bank or a non-bank, and even a entity that is totally independent and has those skills. But a big tech is essentially those companies that are technology companies who are entering financial sector. So for example, if I say Facebook is a huge technology company which has this huge database, customer acceptance, customer know-how, customer appreciation, what they do is, the moment they would start releasing their financial products, they are called the big tech, because then they'll be a big technology company because of their brand. So this is the basic difference between fintech and big tech. Now, I'm looking at some data, and Google is coming fast into this. It is launching numerous products in the financial sector. But one of the data that was shown was the fact that if, for example, alongside Google and Amazon, if PayPal launches its own debit card, given the acceptability PayPal has in the global arena, 41% of the people prefer that. Now, Emra, what does it mean to us? The role of PayPal is amazingly acceptable by the audience, and then what solutions can PayPal have in terms of post-COVID-19 strategies in adopting payment systems or risk-sharing based finance that we've been discussing since the morning? Emra?
Sure. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for having me. And,
Emra Bey?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Emra Bey, we can hear you.
Thank you. So let me start by addressing the market caps where we used to see the ExxonMobils and the likes of it about 10, 15 years ago, and what has happened. I think that's in correlation with significantly the way the businesses are transforming into a digital, going through this digital transformation, right? And that is obviously benefiting the software as a solution companies, software as a service companies, hardware companies, be Microsoft, be Apple, and so on. So as businesses transition into a more digital environment, these Microsoft and the likes of it, Google, are the natural beneficiary of it. And we are as well to a large extent. Now, when it comes to and that reflects in the market caps of the businesses. But when it comes to the PayPal specific, I think our CEO said it very nicely in a couple of weeks ago when we announced our Q1 earnings, is that there is an increased demand to our services that is unprecedented, as has never been seen before as PayPal. And we were a high growth business to begin with. Even with our large market cap and the volumes that we process. But the demand that we see for the PayPal services really are unprecedented. And that was a trend that the society was becoming more digital. So the businesses that became digital about the last 10 years, and that resonated a bit into the consumer behavior, but still the majority of the commerce worldwide was still happening offline and with cash. But more so with offline, even with cards. Now, that trend obviously was slowing down, and the digital economy was seeing a larger increase and boost. But the recent developments around the COVID and distancing from the traditional offline retailer is actually increasing that demand quite rapidly, even to our expectation. Now, there is a lot of things that PayPal can do here, and one of which is, I don't think there is one real answer solution to how do you digitalize a global economy in a very fragmented landscape, especially at these times, at these days when borders are closed and societies are kind of distancing themselves. But PayPal is very unique in that case, where we do offer various services. So if it comes down to a plastic card, putting a plastic card. So we do have it in some selected markets. So in the US, we have a card, we have a Venmo card, we have a PayPal card and a prepaid card in Italy. So we do have, we did have a prepaid card in Turkey when we did have services. And so that is, in a sense, it's already being done. If it makes sense for that specific market audience. So Italy being a very predominantly prepaid card driven society, PayPal acknowledges it and basically introduces a relevant product. But that doesn't mean the right solution for everyone across the board, right? Because in China, that would have to be a QR code based solution rather than a plastic in people's wallet. So it has to be agnostic across whatever solution is being built by PayPal. It is built in a global scale consideration and being agnostic to being iOS or Android, being plastic or money movements between an M-Pesa account in Kenya to a PayPal account and vice versa. So that's how we are kind of looking at this. And I think we are in a sense very positioned very uniquely into this pandemic, where in the past, if you go back 6 months, 3-4 months ago, a traditional retailer would be thinking about an offline solution first, and a digital website checkout and an e-commerce web store would be, yes, it would be in the plans, but it wouldn't make their top priority. What is happening today is it is digital e-commerce store optimization, enablement, launching a website is the top priority, which then the offline offering is becoming a second priority. And that's a very significant shift on how businesses are thinking these days. And we are, again, in a very unique position as PayPal, having to do an e-commerce for the last 20 years and have the experience, 20 plus years, and have the experience for it. Second, that not only for the businesses that are thinking how they do business, but it also impacts the consumer side of it. How do you transact by being distanced from even in an online, not only for online, but even at an offline user experiences? How do you blur that? And that is obviously the mobile has a big part to play in that. But what type of mobile? Is it still the tap? Do you still want your phone that you're going to bring to your ear, maybe, want to touch a POS machine, right? It's not going to go away, obviously, but is that really what the consumers are seeking? Or is it hands-free experience, and it is more so with a QR-based solution. So there isn't a one answer to all of this question. It's a huge economy, the world economy. So there has to be fragmented solutions per market, per consumer behavior. You can't do anything for the case of, for example, Kenya, coming back to that, unless you do offer an M-Pesa partnership, which is a large part of the GDP in Kenya. So whatever you introduce, that is the reality on the ground. Same thing with the example, again, with Italy, where if you don't do anything with around prepaid cards, good luck of penetrating and changing the behavior. So we're not in the game of changing consumer behavior, but rather what the consumer demands. We need to build our business accordingly to that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emma. These are very fine observations. And guess what? This brings me to Umar. Umar, buddy, how are you? The crowdfunding guy.
Yes, I'm here.
Ethis. All right, Ethis. Here we go. Now, Umar, listen, you've been into this crowdfunding technology business for some time now. We've been listening. There was this phrase used, I think, by Khatib called Islamic Fintech and whatnot. Walk me through it. Why again? Why again, knowing that Fintech is doing the common financial inclusion models and common financial models are adopting nothing but 101 risk-sharing modes of mudarabas and musharaka, which is orienting the economy or financing into more of a financer entrepreneur model rather than a financer intermediary and entrepreneur model. Why still, knowing that it is fulfilling the actual fitra and mandate of Islamic finance, why still Islamic finance being a follower? Why you had to see crowdfunding being done by a conventional system first and then wake up one fine morning and say, voila, this is also Islamic because it has this essence being followed. Why are we still following even in fintech adoptions, knowing that it is very much similar to Islamic finance if it is not Islamic finance risk sharing principle? And having said that, we were just discussing big tech ideas with the first three panelists, and they were pretty much optimistic. And poor Khatib thinks it's a strength. I have a different opinion, which I think it's a complementary inclusion. Why? Because if we go for a vendor model, crowdfunding, this is for you. If we go for a vendor model, Islamic finance can gain a lot because the semblance between what technology adoption financial models versus the Islamic financial models is very similar because they share the same base of risk sharing. Silicon Valley is a classic example, and all this technology firms coming out from there. So would you be in a position, first of all, you have to answer two things. Why are we still followers in fintech adoption as well, knowing it's more towards us than anybody else? And number two, why not go and create a synergy with these big tech firms who are coming hard like sharks, create a synergy, use them as a vendor model, and tell them that you design it for us and we'll deliver it. Classic risk sharing 101, both ends, win-win situation. Umar, your turn.
All right, thank you for all the questions. Well, maybe I'll touch on some of your points a little bit. Then I'd like to jump and show some real examples because talk is great, talk is very important, but doing is more important, especially in today's situation. And just touching on your point on following, I don't think there's any issue with following per se if it's following something that's good. And in this case, it's not blindly following; it's following essentially a new way of doing things and doing in our own way, right? So just because somebody uses fire to cook food and we follow the guy to cook fire to cook halal food, it's not a problem in itself, right? So it's not about this following issue that I think is the concern. The concern is about my concern is about how Islamic fintech is moving and how it's shaping to be as compared to what it potentially should be and can be, especially for the Muslim world and for Islamic finance. So to answer all your questions and a little bit more, I'll share my screen very quickly to show you 4 specific examples, and then I'll go on to 4 specific points, right? So this is a platform owned by one of my friends called Blossom Finance in Indonesia. He's an American guy who's living in Indonesia and doing the business there. And what they do is, microfinance fundraising using Suku on the blockchain, right? So very interesting. And this is one example, high social impact, good potential returns. And I'll show you three others. This is Tani Fund. Unfortunately, it's very Indonesian in terms of the language. But yeah, this is really great. They basically also, do P2P financing, where the crowd and increasingly right now in Indonesia, institutions invest through platforms like this to fund, small farmers, clusters of farmers directly, right? Individuals and institutions. So you can see earlier on is microfinance. This is also a form of microfinance focused on farming. And let me just get the next one. The next two examples are our own examples, our own platforms. This is Global Sedekah, a recent project that we launched together with the Ulama Association in Singapore. And this is a cash wakaf fund or endowment fund that's being set up in Singapore. And the platform is used to raise funds from the public, right? Our platform, Global Sedekah. And the last but not least is generally what we are more known for, which is our Indonesian social housing development projects. And I won't go through all our projects, but we have done about 50 projects where, individuals, investors, retail investors from around the world have invested about, from 50 countries, have invested in Indonesia online, almost all for the first time in Indonesia. And almost all, a lot of them actually have never been to Indonesia, have never met us. So this is all new behavior. And for all the different platforms that I've just shown you, all of us are growing essentially organically, except the second one, they raised some good funds, I think Series B already. But for the rest of us, it's just responding to demand. So clearly the demand is there. And the examples that I've shown you so far, and I'm showing you right now, very much relate to all the different topics and all the different points, a lot of different points that were mentioned today, from social finance to participatory, impactful investments, right? And I won't pitch you our project, but I just wanted to show you how it works. Like in this case, the Islamic Bank has already approved financing for an extension of a school. However, because of the COVID situation, the land office is closed. And so the collateral cannot be transferred to the bank and the bank cannot disburse the funds. But the students are coming in. This area is not under lockdown and blah, blah, blah. So there's a huge urgent need to get those funds, to complete the construction. It's already 70% done. So that's where we can come in as a platform. Essentially, the key difference is that we are very nimble, right? We have, an open mandate to go for any kind of project in principle, right? Regulators do not limit us by sector, by project type, and so on. So I'll stop my screen share. Just check it out in your own time. You can go to my LinkedIn profile and see all the links over there. So I wanted to highlight these examples because they are already happening. But as was pointed out earlier by Mr. Khatib, a lot of the platforms are small. A lot of the Islamic fintechs are still very small. And small is I agree with him. It's kind of a blessing in this situation because we can easily pivot. We can easily we're very lean and so on. So that's okay. But for a company like Ethis, we've been around for it's coming to 6 years now. So we're not really a startup anymore, although we're not in the hundreds of millions in terms of valuation. What I want to focus on here is how do we get the value that fintech can bring to be felt in Islamic finance or through Islamic finance for the Muslim world or for Muslim communities and eventually for humanity, right? So I have four quick points I want to highlight. So first point is, as you can see just now, there are many applications of crowdfunding. Right? It's very wide, it's very vast, it's very flexible. And I did not show you startup funding, which is also a significant component of crowdfunding. Now, what is required is actually Sharia guidance. right? The Islamic finance scholars and practitioners, the religious leaders need to have a role, a significant role to model this new approach, to model this new ecosystem, right? Alhamdulillah, we have strong Sharia guys in our company, and also we work with a good Sharia advisory firm in Malaysia. But a lot of the fintechs that I know do not have that, and they just have a Sharia advisor, maybe sometimes for some countries, just to check the boxes that they need someone there to endorse what they do, so that they are formally Sharia compliant. But what's more important is how do we invest, or how do we bring funds to the real world in a way that upholds the maqasid al-Sharia, that upholds justice, yet at the same time also includes elements of protection, risk mitigation, default scenarios, what will happen, how will it happen, how do we fund small businesses, how do we fund risky businesses, all these things. We are working it out as we go, alhamdulillah, with the guidance of Sharia, people with Sharia knowledge. But a lot of startups do not have that. And so Islamic fintech today, I can say that there are maybe two types. One type, like us, try to engage as much as we can, no matter how painful sometimes it is to engage with the incumbents. We try, and alhamdulillah, there is progress. There are those who are anti-incumbents and who just say, like, we don't need all these things that's already been done over the past 30 years. We're going to redo it. We're going to do it in our own way. So I think that's a huge waste, right? Because there's so much wealth of knowledge, right? That's my first point. Sharia scholars need to guide and need to be actively involved. Second point is, fintech, or specifically in this case crowdfunding, allows Islamic finance to reach the segments, the unbanked or the underbanked, that it has not managed to reach, right? And that is, usually, when I speak to Islamic finance leaders, they tell me that that is what they see as one of the big lackings or shortcomings of Islamic finance, the lack of inclusivity. So use fintechs, use crowdfunding platforms to do this, to reach the ground, because sometimes banks cannot or do not want to. Sometimes, large capital market players as well may not, have the capacity or the interest to go down to the community level. Let the fintechs be that bridge, work with us to do that. My third point is related to the earlier points, which is about collaboration. We have already seen it in the fintech, the conventional fintech space, where large financial institutions partner with, invest in, acquire, collaborate with fintechs, right? And although, Brother Mughis, you have an issue with following, I say we should follow, because it's something great, it's something proven, it's something that creates a lot of value, right? So this is what's not happening enough. And there are signs that things are changing, but we really need to accelerate if we want fintech to gain the value of Islamic finance to gain the true value of fintech. One last point I want to share is something that I also see, or I observe, is generally lacking in Islamic finance, which fintech can help to bridge or help to solve, is the merger or the synergy between social finance and investment, right? There is somehow this gap between social funds and investment funds, between banks and financial institutions and charitable organizations or religious, wakaf, zakat organizations. There is this huge gap. And fintech, right now, we can see it already, is able to merge the two, right? So these are a few of the points that I'd like to share, given this opportunity to speak to so many thought leaders and so many influencers in this space. I hope that, with greater participation and greater cooperation between the two sides of the incumbents and the startups, that there will be significant value. And the most important thing is not just significant value, but it's significant value fast. And in addition to that, based on how we want that value to be, of course, underlying everything is the Sharia. So maybe I'll pause there.
Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Brother Umar. And, yeah. I mean, Rushdie, how's it going? How are you?
Good. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, sitting there listening to all these, bombardments that's going on to your brain right now. When was the last time we met? I'm guessing it was last year back in Philippines, right?
Correct.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have you and touch the same cause. Wavelengths match, and this is why, more synergy with you. Okay. Now, I want to give solo time to Rushdie. I mean, he has some important stuff to discuss, of course, not exceeding the time limits, but the tone that Umar has touched in his back end of his conversation, where he's thinking social finance and fintech amalgamation can do wonders for financial inclusion, particularly in times of COVID-19, where countries and economies, particularly the developed economies, are struggling and even can't sustain lockdowns. But to talk about the underdeveloped, also the developed countries are not able to sustain it. Before I move to my brother Rushdie, I'm just thinking out loud over here. Just sprang to my mind. Nothing serious. Just brainstorming over here. Nothing concrete. I have PayPal. I have Path Solutions. Asan has left. He had to go. And I have Umar Munshi, who's a social finance guy / crowdfunding guy. I'm just thinking over here, while we listen to Rushdie and what he has to say, we always love what he has to say, love listening to it. Just brainstorm while Rushdie speaks. Why not we have a Islamic philanthropy financed online platform, which is vended by PayPal or supported by PayPal or Path Solutions in combination, and that fund can be collected online for that online platform via Waqf, via Zakah, via Sadaqat, via whatever philanthropy mode that you have. And why keep it Islamic only? Let it be non-Islamic too, because it's at the end of the philanthropy. And that online platform will help channel it to deserving entrepreneurs as per their feasibility and idea appeal. And not only that, once the idea gets selected and the funding is approved and channeled, the same platform will then help the newbie entrepreneur, newly created entrepreneur enterprise through robo-advisory, through blockchain, and through other financial technology modes to help it grow. Think about this. Think how this amalgamation and this vendorism with PayPal or Path Solution can be done through this Islamic philanthropy or / philanthropy finance online venture platform while we listen to Rushdie. And I'm guessing, Rushdie, you have something interesting to share with us. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
How's everyone?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. How are you? I mean, you're in New York.
Yes.
I mean, it's you see the numbers.
Yeah. First of all, assalamu alaikum. I want to thank Ayofi, Minhaj, and all the previous speakers for enlightenment. The way I want to approach this is the last couple of years I've been focusing on startups and sustainability, more so issues in the emerging markets, the least developed countries. This COVID-19 has impacted those countries, and most of those countries are part of the 56 Muslim majority countries. We need to talk about that, because if Islamic finance is about addressing social, economic, and financial impact, these are the three things that COVID-19 is impacting. So there are three top headline catchphrases that we must be conscious of. The first one is shocks accelerate innovation. 2008, Uber, Slack, Airbnb were formed. What's going to come out of this? The second is the first victims of any crisis or shock are the poor, and it is playing itself out right now. The third is technology / fintech is going to flatten the curve. What happens after the curve is flattened? And it's here that Islamic finance has the opportunity to showcase its capital with a human face by actually contributing to not only flattening the curve, but also what's going to happen post the curve. So what I wanted to do is basically share a screen with you, if you'll allow me.
Sure.
And hang on. Hopefully this will work. Open systems. Okay, it's not working. Okay. So sorry about this.
You can just go to share screen. Rushdie, just go to share screen.
Hang on, let me get out of this thing first. Sorry about this.
While he's sorting it out, let's brainstorm what I just discussed with you. This online Islamic philanthropy finance venture with PayPal and Path Solutions being vendors and facilitating this whole notion. Keep the brains running, guys. Rushdie is about to fix it.
Yeah. All right. If you'll give me 1 second, I've got to get someone. They'll help me with this. Okay. So please continue talking and just
sure. So Umar, did you see what I just wanted before we move to Rushdie? That it just sprang to my mind with your back end discussion, and I wanna roll in and Amra Bey and Khatib in it. How this idea sounds? You're amalgamating social finance with big tech and fintech modes, and then trying to come up with a online workable model that produces economic empowerment, which also serves SDGs, which also helps you, dampen the impact and damage of COVID-19, and provides you a very Sharia compliant solution on top of it. So, guys, let's just discuss this while Rushdie joins us back. Umar, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's a matter of willpower. If the willingness is there, the interest is there.
Positive response.
And, from there, we can clearly, create something that has an impact, that has a win-win, some, benefits to all the parties involved. But more importantly, to create something that can, solve the problems that we face.
What do you think, Emra? If PayPal is approached to be a vendor for all of this online model that we have just been thinking about, all of a sudden it's just brainstorming, nothing serious, very preliminary discussion going on, we're not ironing out anything. What do you think? So if there is a social Islamic social finance online model, but we've just discussed financing economic empowerment for entrepreneur, would PayPal be interested to be a vendor, if not a direct supporter or player in it?
So I think to an extent we already are. And a recent example would be in Bahrain with BISB, with Bahrain Islamic Bank, where we do partner with Sharia compliant financial institutions, and a recent one is being the BISB. Now, that kind of relates to being agnostic, and I think there is a role for PayPal to play together with all of the FIs in the Islamic finance world. For it to allow to access in a global digital economy and ease of transacting online world that we live in these days. But as PayPal is a product, it's built on top of the layer of a financial institution, right? So we rely on the banking infrastructure to operate. Without the banks, we're not going to be in business. So we're not a bank per se. It's in a traditional sense, right? So for that is obviously, case by case basis, we are always open to partnerships across the world, if that answers.
Ewala, thank you very much. This is where Path Solution comes in. You see, this is exactly what PayPal has mentioned, that they're not a bank, they're not a so-called financial institution. This is where Path Solution becomes extremely important, because this vacuum can easily be served by you and filled by you, Khatib. What do you think?
Not from lack of trying. We actually been trying to do this for many years. We have a few initiatives with IDB, large ones. I cannot talk about them right now, but they're supposed to be on the level of the 56 countries. Let me tell you, I hate to be the damper of reality, bringing reality into this, but one of the biggest problems that fintechs face in the Islamic finance is that our markets are very fragmented. And yes, we have, if you look at actually the largest fintech markets, you'll find Malaysia number 1, Indonesia is number 2. Then I believe comes after that the UK, and then Dubai in the number of fintechs. The reason Indonesia is number 2 is because of the size of the market. They have the population, the Muslim population, and they can actually try different things. Malaysia also is very active in that. The problem with the rest of the Islamic world is the markets are too small. And if you try to start a fintech in that market, the only way you can succeed is actually by taking that fintech globally. and you have to extend it. And that's when you run to a lot of regulation issues. If you try to do something in the GCC, you have to deal with all those central banks in the GCC, and you have to get all those players. Then you look at all the different countries in GCCs. Dubai wants to be the fintech hub. Abu Dhabi wants to be the fintech hub. Bahrain wants to be the fintech hub, and Saudi wants to be the fintech hub. And
there's a race.
Instead of specialization, okay, where each market specialize in certain things and work together as a Muslim countries as a one market, you have to deal with all the barriers in each market and try to work with the regulators. Our approach at Path Solution, we said the best way to do this is to go to an organization like IDB and work with IDB and see if we can actually do a worldwide initiatives. It goes very, very slow, and it's definitely the IDB still have to work with all these different Muslim countries and get them on board. And there is a specific project that we have been working on for a couple of years, but we are running for a lot of barriers. So the will is there. We would love to do it. I think your question was about one platform across the Islamic countries. I don't think you were talking about going to every single country and creating
one platform. Let's start with a solo platform. Yeah,
exactly. So that's my passion and my vision, and I would love to do that. And I think we should be able to do that. The problem is you need a catalyst, and you need an organization that can work across these countries, and you need that organization to be very active. PayPal. So
everybody accepts that.
Yes. So basically, I believe that, by the way, even those international technology providers, the big techs, are having challenges in our region. And there's a lot of regulations. I mean, right now they're more open, our countries, but still, for example, encryption issues in our geographies faced a huge issue because some of the countries were refusing to allow some of the providers of technology to provide unless they open the encryptions to the government because of the regulations. So I believe there are a lot of challenges, but something like COVID-19, I think is going to be the catalyst. I think COVID-19 is going to change the world as we know it. Nothing is going to be the same as before, and it would open a lot of minds to some of the ideas, just like the idea that you had. We really have to go digital. We have to do some big initiatives across the Islamic world to help all the poor and the needy. I believe it will happen. Hopefully, one of the benefits of COVID-19 would be actually gas.
Yeah, very good. I mean, who's sharing the screen over here? I can already sense some agreement. You know, PayPal is agreeing. You know, you're agreeing. Omar Munshi is there. You know, we are yet to hear from Rushdie, but I can sense some, a majority agreement, simmering in the air. I can touch it some even. But hang on a minute. I mean, one of the biggest threat to technology would be cybersecurity. It doesn't matter if you're a fintech. It doesn't matter you're a big tech. It doesn't matter if you're whatever platform you are. Cybersecurity is going to be a huge threat. And if we come up with this proposed online platform of Islamic Philanthropy Finance Venture for entrepreneurship, financial and economic empowerment, cybersecurity is as big a threat as it is to any of the technology initiatives. PayPal and Path Solutions, what do you think about this cybersecurity? How are you going to mitigate it? The more technology takes center stage, the more bigger the threat it becomes. One button and you're done.
If I may, take this one first. So I think cybersecurity is not something that's that we are distant, that we have distanced ourselves in the past. So this is something that is very top priority for us. The cybersecurity infosec, be that we are large global companies being a victim in a sense, or trying to be the victim in a sense of these attacks, as we sit on a lot of the financial data in the world. So we have very we're very much the best-in-class systems in place. Again, coming back to having to do what we do, payments in, day out, since the last 20+ years. So we don't look at InfoSec cybersecurity or something that is nice to have, but we do see ourselves as a risk management company, even more so than a payments company, if that answers.
It's a very good attempt, solid one on top of it, as a matter of fact. I mean, Khatib, what do you think? I mean, this cyber risk is going to test this technology notions to the limit.
Yes, but I believe we underestimate how much of our private data is already on the cloud, and all of us has Gmail, and all of us has a lot of information, private, personal information in this Gmail.
Sensitive realities.
If I tell you your Gmail is somebody's looking at your Gmail, you would freak out, right? And it's actually sitting on the cloud. I believe we came a very, very long way in cybersecurity. Sorry,
cutting you short. Sorry, cutting you short. You think that it'll freak me out if I know that somebody's reading my Gmail? I sometimes think that somebody's looking at me from my mobile camera. You know, I mean, so
I think that's the new world that you live in, and this is the reality. But I really do believe we're doing extremely well on cybersecurity. I don't think it's a nice to have. I believe cybersecurity is the most important factor in all. I talk to a lot of CIOs in the banks. Always, cybersecurity and security in general is #1 priority. So we definitely have to address that. We have to continue to work on it. We have to keep protecting ourselves. But if you really look at the big techs and the way they did it, I host some of my data, my customers' data on Azure, Microsoft Azure, and I guarantee you that it is solid. We haven't had any security incidents. We feel that we reached a point where the trust is there, and it will continue. Yes, you will have an incident here or there, but I always make the argument that having it on a cloud with the big tech probably more secure than having it in your data center because of with your physical security.
Huh? Oh, that's very well said. Very well said. I mean, guys, I wanna while we wait for Rushdie, there is this other notion that is equally important, and the world is too busy with COVID-19 and seem to be have it in oblivion. Is this notion of green swans that comes from climate change? Is the technology solutions ready to adopt or adapt to the presence of green swans via climate change that the world is? I think it's going to be new chapters in our life. By the way, don't underestimate climate change at all. It's already having effects. Is the technology solutions prepared, or do you have in your 10-year plans these factors included? Amra and Khatib.
We continue. No, it's
Can you hear me?
Well, if maybe I'll take this one first as well.
Yeah, please.
So as far as climate changes, I think there's a lot to be done, right? But I can't talk on behalf of many of the organizations here globally. But for PayPal, what we are committing, and we recently launched our global impact survey a couple of weeks back, and just for this specific reason, what is our impact to the world? What is our impact that we have in the environment? And the idea is for us, a lot of our data centers that are already transitioning into renewable energy sources to actually migrate that completely in the next couple of years. So we want to do our parts, but as a nature of this transition in the light of the COVID-19 world, the more digital economy, right? And this transition into social distancing to a large extent that is, here to in the new norm per se is having a positive environment, right? You don't see as many cars outside. You don't see a lot of the pollution that we have witnessed. So there isn't only that the companies can make these solutions and migrating into this transition into a digital economy kind of results impacts to the economy nurtured.
Okay. I believe, I thank you very much, Emre. Well, again, I mean, I believe Rushdie has joined us back. Umar, I mean, while you were away, we are already reaching some sort of an agreement for that online platform. PayPal and Path Solutions are already very positive in their tone. Nobody has been pessimistic or tried to shy away. Want to go back to Rushdie. Rushdie, are you back already, buddy?
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
All fixed, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. These things happen. Doesn't matter.
No, it's my bad. I apologize for keeping everyone longer than they should be on this call.
Part and parcel. We are all sharing the risks. We've been discussing the risk sharing. So
okay.
Go ahead, Rushdie. Say what you have to say.
All right. So I was going to do this in presentation form, but it would have been more effective. But the fact that we're doing it this way, and hopefully it'll be just as effective. So as I had mentioned before, the three high-level points that we want to focus in on is shocks accelerate innovation, technology will flatten the curve, but what happens thereafter? And the poor are the first victims in any types of crises or shocks. Now, how do we basically have Islamic finance, fintech, so this COVID-19 environment that a lot of the Muslim majority countries are operating in? How are they being addressed and what needs to be done? My first one is basically the screenshot at the very top left. It's basically megacities. There are 33 megacities globally and counting. 8 of those 33 megacities are Muslim majority countries. They're Jakarta, Karachi, Dhaka, Tehran, Baghdad, Istanbul, Cairo, and Lagos. The key issue here is density. When you have density, you have contagion. You have rural to urban migration, and as a result, you have a large informal sector. But you have social safety nets lacking, and the issues here are water, sanitation, health, and food. When you have these type of issues, this is where cholera, this is where other diseases form. So the key issue for Islamic finance to think about is how can we take megacities and make them into smart cities, sustainable cities, which is SDG 11, or resilient cities, which is what the Rockefeller Foundation tries to do. So the key here is twofold, not basically raising funds to build the infrastructure for the city, but looking at startups that are addressing water issues, that are addressing sanitation issues. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is doing a wonderful job with flushless toilets, with respect to health, with respect to food. This is one aspect. The second aspect is the artificial intelligence, IoT sensors, and predictive analysis. These will provide early warning signs or signals of potential problems, because here you're focusing on the prevention has to be greater than the cure. So you're talking about testing and tracing, which is what they're focusing in on right now, versus vaccine, which takes a long time. So from an Islamic finance point of view, from a fintech point of view, the megacities that exist globally, 8 are in the Muslim majority countries. Islamic finance needs to look at this, but from the point of view of technology and funding them. So as we move from that particular slide to the next one, where you've got the world map and then you've got arrows, and the arrows are going towards the Gulf MENA area. The Gulf MENA area, the Muslim majority countries as a whole are a net importer of food. When you're a net importer of food, what happens there is you've got food security issues. And when you have shocks to the global environment, those are exacerbated. So your supply chain becomes susceptible. You have countries that are not exporting because they're focusing on domestic. You have food waste taking place at upstream. Right. So the key issue here is the next particular slide, which is the Islamic Organization for Food Security. They are doing a wonderful job on addressing agriculture, food and finance investments, food aid, cross-border logistics, free flow of food. The key issue is food is a national security in the Muslim majority world. The COVID-19 has disrupted the food supply chain, and it is going to disproportionately impact the Muslims and the non-Muslims living in these countries. Now, talking about food, if we go to the bottom left-hand side, which is basically a classroom, this classroom can be in any developing country, any Muslim majority countries. The challenge here is that classes have closed down, and has a disproportionate impact in these particular countries. Why? Because schools are not just for learning. They basically provide healthcare kits. They provide food and feeding programs. So when you have closed the schools, in effect, you are basically impacting nutrition. You're impacting health. In the G20 countries, kids are now getting online classes at home because they've got internet, they've got devices, they've got power. These things are luxury in many of the Muslim countries. 22 of the 56 are the least developed. So this COVID-19 has created trauma. Imagine trying to educate kids in a trauma type of environment. So the challenge here is we need to focus in on countries on the internet. So you having big tech companies looking at high altitude balloons, drones for internet, focusing on devices and focusing on power, because the longer schools are closed, the greater likelihood they're not going to come back. So when many of these countries are talking about human capacity development, building kids, these are the feeders for the 4IR generation economy. You're going to have basically a dent in this particular space. So this becomes extremely important. The next particular slide is, I think, ties up a lot of these issues. If you look at what many of the governments, emerging market governments, have talked about, they've talked about government transfer programs, cash transfer programs. And if you look at the people residing in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, in many of these countries, they don't have internet. They may not have phones. The power is intermittent. So how are you going to transfer money to these people when many are undocumented, many don't have bank accounts, as was raised by my colleagues? So the key issue is payment mobile wallets. And these are basically logos of a number of them in the emerging markets. So the solution for having an effective government transfer, cash transfer, as a part of the social safety net exists with respect to apps on phones, allowing them to be recipient of the cash transfer, to basically give them a lifeline, if you will. The nice thing about this is it's faster, it's effective, it results in financial inclusion. When you have financial inclusion, it has a multiplier effect. So you've got inclusion, empowerment, and enfranchisement. And Kenya is a great example of what M-Pesa has done. And in Pakistan, they're doing something similar. So you can have all these policy and framework, but it's the basic tools that are needed on the ground for that policy and framework to be effective. Now, the last particular slide on the bottom right-hand side is all these particular areas are linked to sustainable development goals: poverty, hunger, education, good health. These four are basically adversely impacted with the COVID-19 pandemic. In the Muslim majority countries, we have existing problems. The COVID-19 has exacerbated those problems. The key issue becomes, how do we start looking at this from the point of view of ethical finance? You all have heard of climate bonds. I think 2019, the issuance was close to 300 billion. Green sukuk, the purpose of green sukuk is basically the proceeds must be used for climate projects. And if we looked at the mega cities, trying to make them smart cities, that's an application for the green sukuk. The second thing is Islam teaches about stewardship. It's mentioned in the Quran and in the Hadith, where it talks about water, it talks about biodiversity, it talks about waste. So the reference is there even before the environmental movement that started in 1962 in the United States. The third thing is sukuks have traditionally been oversubscribed. I would imagine that the green sukuk would be immensely oversubscribed, but it cannot be a one-off mechanism. It has to be a part of an ongoing program. Now, the green sukuk's application has fit and purpose immediately in all these areas that I've mentioned. So from that particular point of view, if you look at the 8 countries that are mega cities that are Muslim majority, all of them have exposure to Islamic finance. Some of them have regulations with respect to sukuk, such as Indonesia, which has issued a green sukuk. So if you're talking about climate, you're talking about COVID, you're talking about pain points, here is the opportunity to put practice into this particular area. The last couple of points, which is at the very bottom, they have not put it up, it has to do with the following, which is Islamic finance. Yes, it's risk sharing, but it's also about social impact, which is equivalent to the impact investing that we know. And impact investing has 2 elements. There is a social return and there's a financial return. So that particular aspect of Islamic finance, its social return and its financial return, fit like hand in glove with respect to what it has to finance these pain points in this particular space. Last point is, I'm a mentor at a VC firm in Singapore called Quest Ventures. We recently had our first close of $50 million and got allocations from 2 sovereign wealth funds, one from Singapore and one from Kazakhstan. We'll be looking at launching, and the paperwork is being done by a colleague of mine, of an impact fund. But the geographical exposure is in Southeast Asia and East Asia. The point here is VC entities such as Quest Ventures are looking at not only financial returns, but also social returns. And so the Islamic finance needs to support these type of undertakings because it's part and parcel of their mission to address the needs of the people. And 1.8 billion people have been put into a hotspot in a heat map that is comprised of the COVID-19 environment. Hopefully that summarizes effectively what I wanted to convey, brother.
That's very well done. I mean, and very thought-provoking, very revealing, by the way, I must say, and very, very interesting slides. I hope, I mean, if we can get access to it, if it's possible from your end.
Sure.
I mean, this is really good information in a very crisp and very summarized manner. And the social aspect versus the risk-sharing aspect, and or with the risk-sharing aspect, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is what we've exactly been discussing, and we suddenly jumped on this online platform of Philanthropy Finance Venture that we've been discussing, where the same platform can ideally serve the SDG goals that you have just mentioned. Yeah. And I'm pressing for time, and I think we can end this session on a very high note by saying that why not come up with such a platform that is combining the risk sharing essence vis-a-vis its social finance elements of Islam has to offer, or this economic system has to offer, and then focus and channel them not only during and post COVID-19, but even beyond that, even beyond those means, which are not SDGs. There is a notion called circular economy. I don't know how many people have heard about that. This is a downscaled version of what Rushdie has just been discussing, that Islam has already inbuilt to its system 1400 years ago. I mean, I remember my mother used to tell me when I was a kid that if a bread falls on the ground, pick it up and kiss it. This is how sensitive we are to food wastage. So beautiful this depiction and thought process shared. I mean, I wish you all the best. I look forward for the slides, and I think not only Khatib, Paul, and Umar is equally excited, and I think we should do something. Given the collectivity of thought and the synergy we are already carrying in the thought process, we have to translate it in some practical product orientation. And to me, a collective effort, I think, Path Solution can play a vital role. PayPal is already on a positive note with this. Let us come up with this, at least a blueprint. I mean, results are in the hands of nature. Let us do something, but we've been discussing, let not it be only theory or only discussion or only mind matching. Let us make this mind matching into a black and white stuff and see what comes out of it. It'll be a beautiful match. This is what I'm saying. This is what my parting comment would be before we close the session, by thanking all of your esteemed panels. it'll be beautiful if we can come up with such an online fintech-oriented Islamic risk-sharing / social finance modes-ridden platform that is oriented towards SDGs. I think that would be a game-changing product or a platform for 10 years to come in and post-COVID, and even any other black swan or green swan that happens in times to come. Who knows? Who knows? So, gentlemen, I thank you so very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Rushdie, particularly, all the very best to all of you. It was a pleasure. It was such a pleasing discussion that we had. As if, on top of it, the barakah of Ramzan is making me feel the more sweet taste of it is what I'm saying over here. So, gentlemen, thank you so very much. I'm sure we would not want to end this here and then not do anything about it. We have this WhatsApp group, Rushdie, Umar, Khatib, Emra, you're all there. Others have also listened. Let us try and take this notion, this idea of Islamic philanthropy, fintech-driven finance venture, perhaps seriously onwards and see what comes out of it. And if you have anything to say, a one-liner from all of you before we call it a day, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for an engaging session. You did a great job. And Ramadan Kareem for everybody, and have a great day.
Emra Bey?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, parting comments, please.
I thank everyone for participating and having us here. Like I said, we are open to the partnership opportunities globally in the Islamic finance community, solutions that are coming out worldwide. Very, very interesting developments recently, and I think this is going to be a trend that's going to speed these developments and innovation in the Islamic financial sector as well. And like I said, my email, my contact informations are available, and we have tested and have done a similar partnership with BISP in Bahrain, and open to any kind of discussion to help.
Emra, guess what? I'm sure we have this beautiful, very potent Islamic banks in Oman. We have this, rising Islamic financial sector in Oman, 6 years old already, but it's very vociferous. It's very effervescent. It'll be a lot of interest. Shamzani is there. I guess he's there, and he's listening to you. Not only the banking sector. Look at IOFI. This is my personal recommendation. And look at IOFI, what they do, and see what synergy you can create with bodies like IOFI. We are huge standard setters and market movers of Islamic finance. So these entities plus the Islamic banks, particularly of the markets that are just new, like Oman, I think PayPal can be very pivotal and very key instrument in taking all these initiatives that we've discussed forward.
Right.
I agree, and I think, I think I would love to be in Oman as soon as the travel bans are lifted, and that was the plan. And I am keeping a close look and eye into IOFI as well. And I've seen the professionalism around this table and the know-how that you guys are bringing across. So rest assured, my way, and happy to discuss to anyone.
Take it back. Sure. Anytime. Very quick, Omar and Rushdie.
Brother Omar, you go.
Yep. Yeah, thank you everybody for sharing everything, and I look forward to more collaboration. That's always, in my opinion, the name of the game today and increasingly moving forward. Yeah, cooperation, co-opetition, collaboration, all those co-ops. And inshallah, the spirit, if we're coming together with the right spirit, then the outcome will be good as well. So Ramadan Kareem.
Inshallah. Rushdie.
Okay. In 2008, when we had the financial crisis, Islamic finance lost opportunity to showcase what it could do. I'm with that proposition. In this global pandemic environment, Islamic finance, by way of its risk-sharing, social, economic, and financial impact, can do something. The key issue is it can't do it alone. So the United Nations Development Program has accelerated labs. UNDP has a number of initiatives with Islamic finance. United Nations Environmental Program has a number of initiatives with faith-based faith-based organizations. My point here is we need to be part of that community to do something. And I think the do something is with startups, and startups in the Muslim majority countries, have them get excited, provide them ramps, and institutions like Path Solutions, PayPal, what Omar's doing, what others are doing. This is the perfect storm. We need to take advantage of it.
Thank you very much, guys. What a pleasure. What an honor to host you and moderate you. Really, really, from the heart, guys. Over to you, Rizwan. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unmute your mic, Rizwan sir.
Thank you very much. What a thought-provoking session. It was. Unfortunately, we went over the time, but I definitely did not feel the time. I'm sure that attendees did as well. Thank you very much, Brother Mughith, for chairing it, this session very well. Thank you, the fellow panelists, for sharing the expert opinions, the discussions was very enlightening for me personally, and I'm sure it was for the attendees as well. I personally would like to thank everyone, in particular Brother Rishdi. He's in the East Coast in the US and has been very up. He's been up since the very early morning. Thank you for being with us. I'm sure you enjoyed it equally as well. This perfectly wraps up our third session for the day. Alhamdulillah bil alameen. I want to move on to the conclusion now for this session. Excellencies, friends, and industry colleagues. This session, this Islamic Finance virtual forum, received a lot of traction. Alhamdulillah. We never planned for it. We received registrations for more than 2,500 people from no less than 40 countries around the world. We thank each and every one of you who participated in this interactive session. We hope the deliberations throughout the morning were stimulating and thought-provoking. And they basically have given us a direction to move forward in a new normal COVID-19 affected world. We hope to build on these deliberations, as Brother Mughith mentioned, and take them back to our institutions, as each one of us has a responsibility to play. Each one of us has a responsibility on our shoulders, and each one of us are accountable for the responsibility that is bestowed on us. I hope together we can move forward in a meaningful manner in ensuring that the Islamic economics, banking, and finance industry move forward in the best manner possible. To summarize, COVID-19. To summarize the discussions, I'll just highlight some key points. COVID-19 has given us an excellent opportunity to pause and rethink about many things, including the financial system. This particular forum calls for moving away from a system that is based on riba to a system that is just and fair, an economic model that is based on sharing risk and sharing the proportionate reward, a system that reducing zulm born from charging interest to a system that does not exploit the weak in the society. Islamic finance sector in these difficult times must play its due role for paving roads for such an ideal system. The panel discussions covered many important points and covered this role Islamic financial institutions need to play, provided Sharia guidelines in these extraordinary times. The use of Islamic social finance tools and the solution it offers were discussed in a very interesting manner. How the use of Awqaf, how the long-term use of Awqaf can help us move away from some of the difficulties that we are facing today. Some of the building infrastructure institutions like it has been doing in the past. Then the last session of the day, it was basically on technology, and the technology, as you all know, was the only thing that remained, that kept us connected during these difficult times. We were away from offices, we were away from our colleagues and the industry engagements. But alhamdulillah, thanks to the virtual world that we are in now, we were able to remain connected and conduct this session online. Surely Fintech can provide us an opportunity and has the opportunity to leapfrog us in these difficult times. in particular for the financially excluded people, in particular for the people who are beneficiaries of Islamic social finance, and they provide and the solution can reach them in a more meaningful manner. It is, of course, now up to us how we take this further and develop on it, as this is only a start to what we can do in a very meaningful manner together. To conclude, let me thank the co-organizers, Islamic Research and Training Institute, College of Banking and Financial Studies in Oman, Minhaj University in Pakistan, the supporting institutions. I would like to actually name all of them now. Islamic Financial Services Board in Malaysia, International Islamic Financial Markets in Bahrain, Jamhuriya Bank, Kuwait Finance House, Bank Nizwa, Mithaq Islamic Banking, Cambridge Institute of Islamic Finance in the UK, PayPal, Fingal Global, Ahuat, Ethis, and Path Solutions for all their institutional support in ensuring that this forum is brought to you all in the best manner possible and ensure that the forum is a success. Now, before I conclude, the poll results were also announced, which I missed earlier. According to the last poll results, technology solutions is the way forward to deliver the Islamic social financial solutions in general to the audience, and that's what the poll are saying as well. Of course, the others are equally important solutions that we have to take, and we have to make use of them in the Islamic banking and finance industry as we move forward. To conclude, I would personally like to take this opportunity to thank my fellow colleagues, in particular, Brother Khurram from Minhaj University, Brother Mughis, colleagues at AOFI, Secretariat, Brother Farhan, Brother Sayyed, and the sisters, very ably led by the Secretary General of AOFI, Brother Umar Mustafa Ansari, who have helped us in putting a good show together. And I'm sure all of you would agree that it was an effort, at least, if not delivered 100%, but at least, done at a very high percentage in terms of achieving the objectives. I hope as we move forward, we can take these discussions back with us and, develop on it. That's what I would like to conclude. To the attendees, I would like to reinstate that a feedback form would be sent to you. We would really appreciate, because it's the first Islamic Finance virtual forum that is being organized in such a manner. We would like to hear from you. How did we do? I think this is for us to improve going forward. So we would really appreciate if you can fill in the feedback form, which will be shared with all the attendees. And if possible, share, since we are in this technology tech world that we are, if possible, to share with us, recorded feedback videos, we would really appreciate. So thank you, everyone, once again. Until we speak again, we hope you and your family stay well from all the evil, from all the shar of shaitan, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
It is your time to find your place in the world. Minhaj University recognizes your potential. Extensive libraries and resources broaden intellectual horizons. Job placement, scholarships are at the heart of affordable education. Prize-winning faculty mentor every step of your way. We groom champions. Minhaj University, where dreams come true. We can take you there. Admissions open.